Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of our podcast Beyond the Brief. Today we're going to be getting really sector focused, and we're going to be talking about the power of brand and storytelling, in particular for charities. And to help us unpick that subject, I'm delighted to be joined today by a really good friend of New Creative, which is Ru Watkins from the charity Hamelin, who's Chief Executive. Welcome today, Ru, and thank you so much for coming along today.
Oh, thanks for the invite, Tim. Thanks.
Pleasure. For the benefit of the audience, we've obviously had a relationship, I think I worked out this morning, going back to about 2016 when you were at a previous charity working with CHOW, Children's Hospices across London. And I know you've got a huge amount of experience working with hospices from your previous time as Chief Executive at Noah's Ark. And more recently now, of course, you're with Hamelin, what was Hamelin Trust. And we've been on a huge journey together recently as we've helped Hamelin rebrand, relaunch the website, which is a project that finished very recently. For the audience, could you just talk about who Hamelin is, what the charity does, and your role there?
Yeah, certainly. Well, first of all, big thank you to all of you for helping us. There's the plug. Okay.
Thank you. That's it. You can leave now.
I'm off. No, thank you. Because I think what's really interesting is Hamelin is a charity that works in the community, but actually provides social care for young adults and adults with learning disabilities and autism. And bluntly, that is not an area that people find, overwhelmingly interesting, unless, of course, you're a family or an individual
with that need.
About 3 and a bit years ago, Hamelin was looking after about 120 people, big financial deficits like some charities did have, sadly, which may be happening again in the future. And in 3 years, with a brilliant team, a great workforce, we're now looking after over 700 people.
Incredible.
Working with some really great partners. And a lot of it, I think, has been down to what I would call belief, and a lot of it's also been your help to move us into that area. And I think the challenge for us has been, how have we stopped what is probably a traditional model of social care?
Yeah.
Where have we taken it, and how we've done it? And I think that's been the exciting bit, but it's also been doing it to actually make it right and get it right, and to have a belief. And I think that's probably my theme where I'm going to come out from today.
So when we started working with you, obviously we had this really important role of coming in to help with the brand, to help with the vision at Hamelin. But I think one of the things that really excited us was really about your vision that was far bigger than just helping fix problems within Hamelin, but actually the bigger picture within the sector as a whole. So out of this piece of work that we've done, really, this was underpinned by, I think, a vision of yours, which is really fundamental to the project, about making some fundamental changes within the sector that are very much needed. Would you touch on that? And I know we only have 20 minutes or so today.
Okay.
But how would you succinctly talk about that vision that you wanted to bring into this piece of work?
I think the key for me, and the key has always been for me, is about people, their development. Everybody has a right for development, and we all have our own different aspirations in life. And sometimes you can do it on your own. Sometimes you need a bit of help. What has been tending to happen, I think, in my view, in the social care sector, and it probably won't be well received, but we put a cloak around it all, like I used to call it the Klingon cloak of care.
Yeah.
And we don't understand the aspirations of people. And I was sort of slightly horrified that how we were stopping them, individuals and families, to actually be able to live a life. And my view is that Hamelin is a handrail.
Yeah.
We're there to help, we're there to support, but actually we do it on a bigger scale. We work with communities. We're not a mental health charity, we're learning disability and autism. So signpost people in, do things differently, but build a community and build a very, very compassionate community, which then delivers ultimately what individuals want from their lives. And that's been our ethos. That's been our view.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not rocket science.
Well, you don't make it rocket science. I think you have the ability to really unpack that and make it sound so simple. But of course, we know it isn't simple. Huge amounts of challenges being thrown at the sector from all directions. And I don't want to get into politics, but of course, we very recently had a really tough budget, which people from all walks of life will be talking about because it's affected businesses. But more fundamentally, it's clearly going to be impacting small charities and those organisations within the care sector like Hamelin. So just how much of an additional problem is that becoming? How have you approached that news in the last week?
Well, apart from reeling slightly, which we sort of all did, we've been in a fortunate position where actually, with your help, we've been redefining our strategy. So, in a way, the financial problems that the charity sector is struggling.
Yeah.
The financial problems that we saw have actually been compounded even further by what's happened with the national insurance for the charitable sector, or certainly the care charitable sector, and that means to us, what can we not do?
Yeah.
Bluntly, for our families and for the individuals that we support, who there is a groundswell, they've been talking to us, very, very quickly. They understand that as well. And so we are having to think and work with them, and we're going to have to, what can't we do, but what can we do better? And how can we be more agile, and how can we be quicker? And I think a lot of this is going to be about speed, but also us being very, very pragmatic in places. And that's not the bit I really enjoy, because we will develop, I think, our community services more and more and more, but then potentially stuff that is done by the statutory sector, by the NHS and the local authorities, will have to be handed back to them.
Yeah.
That will create a perfect storm, because actually then people probably won't get the support that they need.
Yeah.
So you're back into the cure problem as opposed to the prevention problem, which is what we're about, prevention and working in partnership. I think it's the law of unintended consequences, sadly. Will Hamelin weather it? I think we might. Will others? I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
I think that the sector generally feels as though it's had a good kicking.
Yeah.
We're being a bit more vocal about it.
And we must, yeah.
And I think we must.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to put an arm around each other and really face up to this and try and get a change. And I'm not getting into the politics of it at all.
Because we'll do that on next week's show for an hour and a half. Yeah.
But ultimately, if you don't fund the change and the innovation, then the communities will suffer and the individuals will suffer, and you'll just end up with the same old. And that's not what we're about.
No.
And that changes. We get the change has got to happen, but not in the way that it's happening at the moment.
So in real terms, that means money has to come from other sources than traditionally. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And therefore that shines a light more on the hard work that your brand needs to do, the reach you have within communities, to the public, to people, to fundraisers, to volunteers, to professionals and partners, to all of the different places that as a charity you might find help and support. So what do you see, the role of the brand and marketing being able to help you achieve in order to, I suppose, diversify the way that you're now going to have to try and find that money from other sources?
I think it's a really, really great question, because I think the brand's not just diversification of funding. It's about who we are. It's our DNA.
Yeah.
It's our people that we recruit. It's the people we work with. It's everything. Our brand needs to be strong and to be seen, but to be understood. And there's also a bit about the brand journey.
Yeah.
As you guys know, and you helped us enormously in this, we were seen, and I always remember this, we were seen as an offshoot of the National Trust, which was really great. So,
I remember the green that you had before, and the word trust that was in the name. And
it didn't tell the story. What we have now is something that tells the story, and the logo with the ME bit is so powerful because actually it reflects what we believe in.
Yeah.
Now that is enabling us to change ourselves organisationally, which is really good. And I think the staff are behind it. It will encourage a new cohort of staff. And what's really interesting, I think it also sees the bigger organisations look at you and say, these guys are disrupting to a certain extent, but they're trying to push the boundaries. They're trying to innovate. They're trying to do more. In terms of the donor journey, it's really, really tough because the whole world has changed. It's upside down at the moment.
Yeah.
Community funding is really tough to get. So I think getting the brand in the mind of people, actually, then it's a longer journey. You're more, your trusts and foundations are now looking at you as an organisation very differently to see not just the numbers and the impact, it's about the social effect that you've got.
Yeah.
And the brand has to reflect that, in my view. And I think ours does. And then I think also there's a real piece with, if you look at the major donor programme, which we've only just started, it's really interesting. People look at us, come and talk to us, and then they go away and think about it.
Yeah.
And then they come back and ask questions. And they're asking those questions. They're doing their diligence and their governance, and they're looking at, the numbers. But they're asking us really interesting questions. What's your ambition for the future? What do you really want to do? What is the big picture? We get the 700. What's your big picture?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourselves as an organisation? What are you going to do that? And I think the brand projects that, and it projects a belief in something. And it's almost, at times it feels a bit like a shield, and it's great. But at other times you're out there pushing it. It's sort of, I suppose, a bit like a sort of a sled or something like that. You're on it and you're going for it. And I find it incredibly exciting. But I think the important bit is the DNA. It's the total DNA of the charity and of the organisation. And it's, for us, it's been a real change. And we're still on that journey a bit.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong.
It's a never-ending journey, yeah. And I was really interested by your point about the internal piece, because I think often it's very easy to think about, the sort of external perspective on brand and the impact it has out into communities, etc. But I think often the internal bit is often sort of really overlooked, and organisations often don't realise the power brand can have internally with an organisation to really help people align, to understand a vision, a mission, those goals and, all those plans that you have for the future. Were there uncomfortable bits? Was it a bumpy road? Or have you seen that actually it really has been able to pull, your internal teams together behind that central mission in a more powerful way?
I mean, how long is it? A year now?
Yeah, coming up, I think.
And it's still bumpy. There's parts of it that are still bumpy. And I sort of expect that.
Yeah.
It's never perfect. I think what's been interesting is those who've got behind it and get it, they're a lot happier.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're happy, I know it sounds a bit weird, you deliver great care, but also they're very invested in your organisation. And you suddenly realise that, the people at the top aren't actually all a bunch of muppets. And they are trying to invest in you and develop you and do those programs. And we've seen certainly a sea change in that. We've also seen those that were starting to recruit into us come with a really different ethos. And that's incredibly exciting. Yeah. Because you're building, you're developing new people who come with not necessarily those skills, but you can develop the skills, but they come with the right ideology, the right ethos.
It's that mindset, yeah.
It is bumpy. There are people who I'm quite sure will be, if they ever see this, who members of myself say, well, what's he talking about?
Yeah.
And that's fine, but we're determined to go on this journey, and, I hope they will come with us.
Yeah.
But they will also make their own mind up.
Of course.
And not every organisation suits everybody.
No.
But we're quite passionate about this. Yeah. And I think the other bit is that projection, when a member of staff or one of the team goes home and talks about Hamelin, you then get that further and further out in the community. Yeah. And they get their idea. It's very interesting chatting with them, and they tell me what we're doing.
Do you think do you think that there's an important I think an important element that you've highlighted there, Rich, is that I suppose, are people now articulating that central mission more consistently and effectively? You know, so you can see that it's pulled people in to talk about the right idea.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think there's certainly a cohort there who are doing that. And I think the other piece is that part of that cohort is now starting to think about, and what's the next roll of the dice? What's the next evolution of the mission and the vision? And that to me is incredibly powerful. So that, you know, I mean, you couldn't ask for more, really, could you?
No. Let's flip it the other way then. That's the internal piece. So if we now talk about, you know, what we're doing from a brand perspective to tell the stories of those that you support, and the message that we can push out through that piece, how do you see that as a narrative and message that can help drive the vision that you're looking, you know, to push and achieve?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think that, you know, we talk about heroes.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, we're just going through that process of not making some parts of the organisation into heroes as we're using media in this other issue that we have over funding.
Yeah.
And I think, so we try not to use the word hero, but there is certainly, we see the story is so fundamental. And it's not the chief exec sort of saying, these are our great plans and these are our great vision. You know, I sit down and listen to those that we look after in our families, and I think that's a privilege, bluntly.
Yeah.
And I listen to their stories and I think, I just couldn't do that. And then we can then tell those stories. And I think that triggers an empathy. I think some people get it. I think some people don't. Some people, you know, if you think about the donor landscape and supporters, you know, even volunteers, some people will turn around and say, yeah, I get this. Learning disabilities and autism, that's a key area. And that ticks my box, and I get it. Others will turn around and say, nope, I'm sorry, I'm into palliative care or children, you know, the children's side or you know, the animal side, the donkeys. And that, I think that's fair. But for us, for our perspective, is because we are growing, and as we grow, we need that supporter base. So the story is fundamental. It's not my story, it's their story. And what people like to hear is the solution. We can all get very, very upset.
Yeah.
But they want to hear what the solution is. And if we're a handrail and that person lets go of the handrail and they're off and doing something, that's a brilliant solution in our world.
Yeah.
And I think people like to hear that, because I think we, all of us, hope for good news at the end of the day. You know, and I think that's certainly part of the change that you guys have helped us do.
Yeah.
And our thinking is like that. That's our probably perennial optimism and general madness, you know. But I think that's where the change is.
Yeah.
And I hope, you know, I find see a lot of stuff coming out, certainly in health, and it's really depressing.
Yeah.
And I feel, oh God. But I then look
where's the positive
where's
spin?
where's the positive end to the story?
Yeah.
And you know, and it's great. And I can think of some of the stuff that's coming out. You know, I think of one of the people we support. You know, we wanted her to become independent. Her family wanted her to become independent, and it took a year for her to get on buses. And she now gets a bus pass. She's got a bus pass, and she's travelling on the bus, coming to us for development, but also going out and doing other things.
Incredible, yeah.
And that's, you know, in the scale of, you know, a lot of other problems in the world, that probably seems nothing. But for that family, that's been incredible.
Huge, yeah.
Incredible story. And for that young individual as well.
So we've been on this journey together for, as you said, probably a bit more than a year, I think.
Yeah, probably.
And I think we're delighted with what we've achieved so far. And as you said, it's just the kind of start of the journey. So having achieved so much already, if you think about a sector like ours as an agency who supports lots of charities, what, if anything, would you like to see more of from us in the way of how we can help shape, you know, the future of Hamelin? Where are those areas that we can do more, or this is a bit of a challenge here. So, but yeah, we want to carry on supporting you. And there are, lots of different ways that we can do that. And as we know, you want to see results quickly to help you face the constant challenges that are thrown at you. Are there any areas where you think, do you know what, this would make a quick and fundamental, difference? There's a big question there.
It's a really great question, and it's difficult when you're speaking to a friend and somebody who you trust and know, and I think so. The first thing I would say is develop that trust. Actually, the stuff that we did together in London was great. The stuff we've done with Hamelin, I think, has been awesome, because you understood what we wanted to try and achieve.
Yeah.
And we threw the challenge out to you and then said, get on with it. Tell us, what does it look like?
Yeah. Show me.
What does it look like?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't get that. Explain it to me. And I think the first thing is the trust. The second thing is challenge us in the sector, what we're thinking. Third thing is, I think you guys can help upskill us as well. And we can probably do the same to you. I'm not quite sure, haven't quite worked out why, but or how. But I think you can upskill us and help us. But I think also you help us with the journey, to help us tell the story, the real story behind it. It's that empathy that's real co-production, real partnership.
Yeah.
I don't believe our relationship is a transactional relationship. I think it's a transformational relationship. Because there's stuff that you guys say, and I'm going, well, hang on, why didn't I think of that? That's really clever, we'll have that.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
But also that's the implicit trust, because we're doing something which is, and the team will probably love, but we are disrupting a system.
Absolutely. That's why we wanted to work with you, because we love that. Yeah.
And we need your help to do that.
Yeah.
Because we only know a few parts of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's implicit. And your knowledge, you've got knowledge that we just don't have and don't necessarily get. And the lovely bit is you really share it with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you turn my ramblings into something that's coherent. Actually, most of the team do as well. So that's good news. But we can have that very open and honest discussion. So I would always say to your sector, just do that, but also think beyond the problem, because we sometimes get dragged back into the mire.
Yeah.
You guys can actually probably think beyond the problem. It's not just
a fresh perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not just the technical stuff and all the social media and all the other bits and pieces and the AI and everything else that you all understand and know. It's that other bit. It's also that other bit of relationship. I feel I'm talking. When I talk with you and Sarah and the team, I'm talking to friends and people I trust, who will be honest brokers with me.
Yeah.
So when I am, or the team are being absolutely bonkers about something, and we're being passionate about it, because there's a huge amount of passion.
Yes.
You guys will go, just have a little think about this. Or you'll go, we get it. So what we're going to do is this. And we'll go, that's fantastic.
I love that. Yeah. and I completely agree. I think that education piece is definitely bi-directional. I think we've got so much to learn from you, and I hope that we can add value and, again, teach, educate, help your teams understand how our world can also drive impact. I'd like to finish on a question, if I may, which is, what's the future that you hope to see for Hamelin?
That's a really...
You've only got 2 minutes, go.
I would say we all got a good kicking last week, but I'm not.
We know you did, yeah.
I think it's not just Hamelin. I think UK PLC and perhaps wider doesn't really understand the value of the charitable sector or the third sector. We do a huge amount of stuff that actually the system, big words, should be doing. And I think, to me, that means that, potentially we have to think certainly differently. We will innovate differently. As far as I'm concerned with Hamelin, we will continue to grow and do what is needed and asked for by our communities and by the people that we support. We will concentrate on what we're good at, which is learning disabilities and autism, as an area of expertise. We will work with partners, but we'll only do it so that it drives an impact.
Yeah.
If it doesn't drive an impact and doesn't build a community, then it won't do it. I think, our growth has been pretty phenomenal in the last 3 years. I think there'll be another roll of the dice and we will grow again. But my concern is our sustainability and the sustainability of the sector, the wider sector.
Yeah.
Because if that goes to the wall, then there's more pressure on us. We've already seen the pressure on us, and then there's more pressure on the system. And the person who doesn't get the support is the person who misses out.
Absolutely.
So how do I feel? We'll go for it, because I think we're a bit like that. But we'll go for it with our friends and with some help.
And we'll be here to support you on that journey. You. Absolutely. Ru, thank you so much for coming in. It's been an absolute privilege to talk to you, as always. We will be here with you for the long term to help ensure that you can ride everything that's thrown at you. But yeah, thank you once again. And we'll hopefully see you maybe on another show in the future. You can tell us how you've got on.
We will. No, the privilege is ours, and thank you so much. And I genuinely mean it to all of you and your team. You have taken us on that part of the journey. And hopefully you're still holding our hand as well. So thank you to you.
Pleasure.
Great.
Thanks so much. And thank you for watching.